For this benchmark, we are going to create equations and inequalities, but not solve them. So Ray can paint a standard house in 3 days, and Ron can paint the same type of house in 5 days. How long would it take them to paint the same type of house if they worked together? So, if he can do it in 3 days, and he can do it in 5 days, if they work together, where do you think it might be? Would it take 4 days, 5 days, 2 days? Well, for instance, if Ray could do it by himself, it's 3. So if this guy, who's a little bit slower, Ron, is helping, he's working 2, shouldn't it be less than 2 days? Alright, first you want to think about that. Even though we're not solving it, you want to realize the answer should be less than 2 days if we were to solve it. But right now, let's create an equation. So, let's see, the question is, X is, how long should it take for them to paint one house together? So we want X to be number of days. So, if he could do one house in 3 days, in 1 day, can he do a third of a house? So Ray can do 1/3 of a house, okay, per day, plus Ron can do 1/5 of a house per day. Alright, so let's think about that. Ray can do a third of a house in 1 day. Ron can do 1/5 of a house in 1 day. If you add those together over time, when we add the number of days, we want to make one house. Correct? We're painting one house. So that would be the equation, and we'd solve it. Now you could also write it like this, if you wanted to. A lot of people do write these like this. Okay, so a third, the house, each day, okay, a third of a house and a fifth of the house added together, how many days to get one whole house. Now if you wanted to do 2 houses, you put a 2 here, 3 houses, 3 here, and so forth. If you solve this, again, it should be less than 3 days. Alrighty, you have made your first 5 free throws in a basketball game. The rest of the game, you miss them. Oh man, you want to have better than a 75% free throw shooting. And what's the least amount of missed free throws? So X is going to be how many free throws you've missed. So, first you have to understand how percents work. Percents work is how many you make out of how many you've shot. So I know right off, if I've made 5 the whole game, I know it's going to be 5 and stay 5. And that's going to be out of how many I've shot. Well, if I've shot 5 plus the number I've missed, won't that give me my total number of shots? Remember, I made 5 to start with, plus all my missed shots. So let's say I missed 3 afterwards. That would be 8. So 5 out of 8, what percent is that? You have to understand that percent is when you take the number made out of the number taken. So that would be my percent made. Now it says at least, meaning I want to make more than 75%. So if I want more than 75%, what you have to realize is that means I want to be greater than 75%. And you have to think of what's 75%. Let's think of it as a fraction. 75% means 75 out of 100. Or you could put it as 0.75, whatever you want. The reason I like this is if you wanted to solve it, you can cross multiply to solve this, and you could actually find out X, meaning how many you'd miss to at least be greater than 75%. That's kind of how you would handle that problem setting it up. This is an inequality, where this one was an equation. Completely different equations. Alright, let's look at this last problem. $600 prize will be divided evenly among all the winners. Initially, there are X winners, but then one more winner comes forward, causing each winner to get $20 less. How many winners were there initially? Okay, this is a little bit tougher. Let's think about this. Let's talk about X stands for how many winners there were initially. And if I want to know how much each person had, what you have to realize is I have $600 divided by X, the initial number of people. So this right here would tell me how much each person got initially. Alright, but something changed. So now that needs to be equal to, we add one more person. So what that would be, okay, I now have $600 divided by X plus 1. Okay, So this is how much they normally got per person. I want to make that equal to, well, $600 divided by one more person, but I have to add the $20 more. So I then have to add this $20. So that might be hard to understand, but again, this is right here. This value is how much each person gets. That would be equal to, well, the new value divided by one more person, but $20 more. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of looking at it would be this. If I start with the $600 divided by the x plus one person. So I'm talking about now the big one. I'm talking, okay, what if we started with this? How much we have divided by what we with the new person and everything. Well, that would mean I'd have $600 minus $20 for each individual, original individual, divided by x. So that's another way to look at it, because if you have $600 divided by one more person, well, that would be your $600 minus $20 per person, all divided by the number of initial winners. Two different ways to write it. Hopefully one of those would work for you. There are probably many, many more. For all these, there are different ways to write these, but these are the ones I've written, and hopefully they make some sense.